Chapter 1. The First Snow. The winter settled in early that year, blanketing the small town of Frostbrook in a thick layer of snow. The air was crisp, the kind of cold that bit at your nose and turned your breath into visible puffs. The townsfolk, accustomed to harsh winters, went about their business, shoveling driveways and salting walkways. But there was something different about this winter, an eerie stillness that seemed to hang in the air. At the edge of town stood an old, abandoned mansion known as the Marlowe House. Once the pride of Frostbrook, it had fallen into disrepair after a series of tragic events left it uninhabited. The locals told stories of strange noises and ghostly apparitions, but most dismissed these as mere legends, tales to scare the children. Chapter 2. The Gathering Storm. As the days grew shorter and the nights colder, the storm warnings became more frequent. A massive blizzard was predicted to hit Frostbrook, the likes of which hadn't been seen in decades. The townspeople prepared as best they could, stocking up on supplies and hunkering down in their homes. In the midst of these preparations, a group of teenagers, Jake, Emily, Sarah, and Matt, decided to explore the Marlowe house. They had heard the stories all their lives and were curious to see if there was any truth to them. Armed with flashlights and a sense of adventure, they made their way through the snow-covered streets to the mansion. Chapter 3. The Haunting. The mansion loomed over them, its windows dark and uninviting. The front door creaked loudly as they pushed it open, the sound echoing through the empty halls. Inside, the air was even colder than outside, and a thick layer of dust covered every surface. The house seemed to groan and settle around them as if it were alive. As they explored, strange things began to happen. Doors slammed shut on their own, whispers echoed through the halls, and shadows moved in the corners of their eyes. The further they ventured, the more intense the phenomena became. Emily, the most sensitive of the group, felt an overwhelming sense of dread and begged the others to leave. But Jake, determined to uncover the truth, insisted they press on. Chapter 4. The Revelation. In the attic, they discovered a dusty old journal belonging to Elizabeth Marlowe, the last resident of the house. Her entries spoke of a dark presence that had taken over the mansion, driving her family to madness and death. She wrote of strange rituals and an ancient curse tied to the land on which the house was built. The final entry was a desperate plea for help, a warning to anyone who might find her words. As they read, the temperature dropped even further, and a deep, guttural growl filled the air. The shadows coalesced into a figure, a twisted, nightmarish entity that lunged at them. They fled, barely making it out of the house with their lives. Chapter 5. The Blizzard. The blizzard hit with a fury, trapping everyone indoors. The teenagers, traumatized by their experience, tried to warn the townsfolk, but few believed them. That night, as the wind howled and the snow piled up, the power went out, plunging the town into darkness. In the pitch black, strange things began to happen. People reported hearing whispers, seeing figures in the snow, and feeling an overwhelming sense of dread. The entity from the Marlowe house seemed to have followed them back, spreading its malevolence through the town. Chapter 6. The Fight for Survival. As the blizzard raged on, the town descended into chaos. People went missing, Strange markings appeared on buildings, and the sense of fear grew stronger. Jake, Emily, Sarah, and Matt, feeling responsible for unleashing the horror, decided to confront it. They returned to the Marlowe house, armed with the knowledge from Elizabeth's journal. The ritual needed to banish the entity was dangerous, requiring a sacrifice and the recitation of an ancient incantation. Desperate to save their town, they prepared for the battle of their lives. Chapter 7: The Final Confrontation. The house was even more menacing than before, the entity's presence palpable. The teenagers set up the ritual in the main hall, chanting the incantation as the shadows closed in around them. The air crackled with energy, and the ground shook as the entity fought back. In a moment of bravery, Emily stepped forward as the sacrifice, knowing it was the only way to save her friends and the town. Her selfless act weakened the entity, giving the others the strength to complete the ritual. With a final, anguished scream, the entity was banished and the house fell silent. Chapter 8: The Aftermath. The blizzard subsided as quickly as it had begun, leaving Frostbrook in an eerie calm. The townspeople emerged from their homes, shaken but alive. The Marlowe house, now devoid of its dark presence, crumbled to the ground, taking its secrets with it. Jake, Sarah, and Matt mourned the loss of Emily, but her sacrifice had not been in vain. The town was safe, and the story of their bravery became legend. Winter eventually gave way to spring, but the memory of that terrible night remained, a reminder of the horrors that lurked just beneath the surface. Years passed, and the events of that winter became a distant memory. Frostbrook rebuilt, the scars of the past healing over time. But some nights, when the wind howled and the snow fell thick, the townsfolk would whisper of the Marlowe house and the brave souls who had faced the darkness. And in the shadows, something stirred, waiting for the next winter, when the snow would fall and the darkness would return. Chapter 9: Shadows in the Snow. 10 years after the harrowing winter, Frostbrook had become a quiet town once more. The story of the Marlowe house had faded into folklore, a cautionary tale told to keep children from straying too far from home. Life had returned to normal, or so it seemed. One particularly cold December, strange occurrences began to disrupt the town's peace. At first, it was subtle: a missing pet, strange footprints in the snow, and whispers in the wind. But as the days passed, the incidents grew more frequent and more sinister. Windows shattered in the dead of night, objects moved on their own, and the townspeople started seeing shadows lurking just beyond their vision. Jake, now a young man, had never truly recovered from the events of his youth. Haunted by the memory of Emily's sacrifice, he had left Frostbrook for a time, seeking solace in the anonymity of the city. But something had called him back, an uneasy feeling that the past was not as buried as he had hoped. Chapter 10: The Return. Jake arrived in Frostbrook to find the town on edge. The festive spirit of the holiday season was dampened by an undercurrent of fear. Old friends welcomed him with open arms, grateful for his return. They shared their concerns and recounted the strange happenings that had begun to plague them once more. Determined to protect his hometown, Jake gathered Sarah and Matt, who had remained close despite the passage of time. They reminisced about the night that had changed their lives, their bond strengthened by shared trauma. Together, they decided to investigate the source of the new disturbances, fearing that the entity they had banished had found a way back. Chapter 11: The Warning. As they delved deeper into the mystery, they discovered an ancient text hidden in the ruins of the Marlowe house. The text, written in an old, forgotten language, spoke of a cycle, darkness that would return every decade, seeking to reclaim what it had lost. The entity, though weakened by their previous confrontation, had not been destroyed. It had merely been waiting for the right time to rise again. The townsfolk were skeptical of Jake and his friends' warnings, dismissing them as paranoid fantasies. But when a brutal snowstorm hit, eerily similar to the one from years before, the town had no choice but to believe. People disappeared in the night, and the shadows grew bolder, attacking anyone who dared to venture outside after dark. Chapter 12: The New Alliance. Realizing they couldn't fight this battle alone, Jake, Sarah, and Matt sought help from a reclusive old woman named Agnes, known for her knowledge of the occult. Agnes revealed that she was a descendant of Elizabeth Marlowe and had been guarding her ancestors' secrets for years. She possessed the knowledge and tools needed to combat the entity, but warned that this time, the battle would be even more dangerous. With Agnes's guidance, they gathered the necessary ingredients for a powerful ritual. The townspeople, now fully aware of the threat, came together to support the effort. Old rivalries were set aside, and a sense of unity emerged as they prepared to face the looming darkness. Chapter 13: The Final Stand. On the night of the winter solstice, the group assembled at the site of the Marlowe house ruins. The air was thick with tension, and the howling wind seemed to carry whispers of the past. Agnes led the ritual, chanting in the ancient language while Jake, Sarah, and Matt stood guard, their eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of the entity. As the ritual reached its climax, the ground trembled and a cold, malevolent presence filled the air. The entity, now more monstrous than ever, emerged from the darkness, its form shifting and writhing. The townspeople watched in horror as it advanced, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. Drawing on their combined strength and the power of the ritual, the group fought back. Jake confronted the entity head-on, his courage unwavering despite the fear that gripped his heart. With a final, desperate incantation, they managed to bind the entity, trapping it in a circle of light. Chapter 14: The Aftermath. The dawn broke over Frostbrook, the first rays of sunlight dispelling the lingering shadows. The entity was gone, its presence banished once more. The town, though scarred by the ordeal, began to heal. The bond forged in the crucible of darkness brought the townspeople closer together, their resilience a testament to their strength. Jake, Sarah, Matt, and Agnes stood at the edge of the ruins, the weight of their victory settling in. They knew the entity was not destroyed, but they had bought the town another decade of peace. Agnes entrusted them with the ancient text, ensuring that the knowledge would not be lost to time. Life in Frostbrook returned to normal, the story of the entity becoming a part of the town's lore. Jake, Sarah, and Matt resumed their lives, always vigilant, always ready. They knew that the darkness would return one day, but they were prepared to face it together. As the years passed, the story of the brave souls who had faced the darkness became a legend, a tale told around winter fires to ward off the cold. And in the shadows, a watchful eye remained, ever vigilant, ever ready to protect Frostbrook from the darkness that lurked just beyond the light. Chapter 15: New Beginnings. Winter came and went, each year bringing its own challenges, but none quite like the terror of the past. Jake, Sarah, and Matt remained close, their bond unbreakable. They took on roles within the community, becoming pillars of strength and wisdom. Jake found solace in teaching, sharing stories and lessons from his experiences. Sarah pursued a career in medicine, dedicating herself to healing both physical and emotional wounds. Matt, with his technical skills, became an engineer, helping to modernize Frostbrook and protect it from future threats. Agnes, the keeper of ancient knowledge, continued to guide them. Her presence was a comforting reminder that they were not alone in their vigilance. She trained a new generation in the old ways, ensuring the town would always have protectors. Chapter 16: Whispers of Darkness. As the 10th anniversary of their battle approached, subtle signs of the entity's return began to manifest. The air grew colder, and a sense of unease settled over Frostbrook. Jake, Sarah, and Matt, now older and wiser, sensed the impending threat. They gathered the old allies and sought out new ones, preparing for what they knew was inevitable. Agnes, though frail with age, was more determined than ever to see the town safe. She revealed an ancient prophecy hidden in the text, hinting at a way to permanently destroy the entity. The prophecy spoke of a celestial event, a rare alignment of stars that would grant them the power to banish the darkness forever. The alignment was due to occur on the night of the winter solstice, giving them a narrow window of opportunity. Chapter 17: The Celestial Event. The night of the solstice arrived, and Frostbrook held its breath. The townspeople, now well aware of the stakes, came together once more. They fortified their homes and gathered in the town square, where a massive bonfire blazed, a beacon of hope against the encroaching darkness. Jake, Sarah, Matt, and Agnes stood at the center of the preparations. They had spent months studying the prophecy, deciphering its cryptic messages, and gathering the necessary materials. The ritual required precise timing and absolute focus, with each of them playing a crucial role. As the stars began to align, the air crackled with energy. The ground trembled, and a deep, resonant hum filled the air. The entity, sensing the threat, emerged from the shadows, more furious and powerful than ever. It lashed out, attempting to disrupt the ritual, but the townspeople formed a protective barrier, their combined willpower holding it at bay.